Hi, welcome to Coral Ruts. I'm Adrian. This is my husband Eddie, a reluctant participant in the channel. Meet our golden retriever, Carol. Claire joins us as a special guest from time to time. And we live in Cape Coral, Florida. This channel is devoted to all things living that summer 365 lifestyle. Follow along as I serial start new projects and learn from YouTube University.
Ciao ragazzi! Welcome back to Coral Ruts, part 2 of our sourdough series. We started with making the sourdough from scratch. So once you have an active sourdough starter, there are 2 parts that you're going to need to know. One is the leaven, or the kind of the active sourdough starter mix that you're going to use in recipes. That's what we're going to make right now. And then 2, the storage of your sourdough starter and how I use mine. That'll be the next part. So this is the active sourdough starter that we fed yesterday. We did the process that we made sure that it would start to bubble in less than the 24-hour period. And 8 o'clock this morning, that was the last picture you saw on that last video. It was still more than doubled, and now it is 2 o'clock on that same day, and it is still more than doubled. So take a peek at the level. It's starting to come down a little bit, but yay, it is active. Now, to make your leaven, typically you're not going to be in this active stage. What you are going to be is in, this is my 4-year-old starter, this stage, and I should name it because everybody does that, but I just haven't, so, you know. Anyway, I store mine in the fridge. Forthcoming video on how to store it and what you do with it. But this is what it will look like coming out of the fridge. I'm going to teach you a really step-by-step leaven. However, I'm also going to side-by-side show you just kind of how I run my own system for when you get a little bit more experienced. And you don't need to rely quite as much on the measurement amount and rely a little bit more just on how your starter reacts amount. So we're going to do both of these kind of side by side. Hopefully that's really helpful to see how you do it the correct way, as well as kind of how I just work it into how I run things. So, when you are going to make any sort of sourdough product, bread, bagels, whatever, you kind of have to think ahead by basically a day. So if I know I want to make a loaf of bread on Saturday, Friday night, I need to think, I got to get my starter out of the fridge and I need to feed it and get it going so that it's ready for Saturday bread making. So let's get started after all that intro. So exciting. Again, my process that I use doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of waste because I think it's wasteful. Here's what it looks like after it's got just that kind of little bit of a crust on it, but it's not anything nasty. There you go. So you can still see all those air pockets and bubbles. Typically for recipes, you need a certain quantity of the leaven. It'll say, you know, however many grams or a half a cup or a quarter, whatever the amount is. So the amount we keep as our starter, this process is usually, you know, I bet this is a cup and maybe a cup and a quarter. This is literally all I keep. I don't keep a vat of starter. So what we need to do is build the quantity up enough so that there's enough of that leaven plus leftover to go back in our fridge. I need to get a bigger container than this one in order to do this process. What we're going to do is move all of our sourdough starter from this container to this container, or at least as much as possible. The amount that you have coming out of your starter that you started will probably be a different grams quantity than mine, depending on if you did a little bit of that discard every day or if you kind of did it every other day like I did, you know, approximately every other day. I didn't do it exactly. At this point, that really doesn't matter so much. What's going to matter is the quantities that we're adding. Now, my favorite bread recipe takes 125 grams of active starter. By active starter, that's also another word you could call it is the leaven, the ready-to-go usable mixture to begin your bread for that day. So what I am going to want to make, oopsie, just slam that everywhere. What I'm going to want to make sure that I do in this process is end up with 125 grams plus enough that I have kind of my leftover. Well, sheboygan, that's a fancy word that to try not to swear because I was setting this up to show you. I accidentally turned my scale off, so my actual quantity, I'm not sure. I think it was like 140 or something like that. So it's actually quite a bit of starter that we had poured from here. Like I said, my favorite bread recipe uses 125 grams of that active leaven mixture. So that's in essence what I want to add to my starter here so that I can pour 125 out and then still have the quantity left. So as we go to start our leaven, I make a snafu here. And I'm leaving it because I'm also showing you that it's not that hard and you can correct mistakes. So while I was explaining the leaven process and adding of the flour to our new sourdough starter, my brain was thinking the same ratios that we did for creating the starter, which is flour and then half the amount of water. Dum-dum. Incorrect. It's equal. So if you add 50 grams of flour, 50 grams of water, 100 grams of flour, 100 grams of water. Yikes! The process I think will be really helpful because you can see what my oops does and what that looks like to your leaven versus when I do the correct amount and how that outcome is. Let's say 150. That's what we're going to add total because it just makes it easier because then we can do 100 grams of flour, half of the water, so 50 grams of water, and we should be golden. Now, I actually had this one teared out, but what I want to do is tear this one out because this one's got all like the good leftover stuff in it, and I don't want that to go to waste. So what I'm going to do is actually add the water here, stir it up, get all the goopiness off of the sides of this, and then pour it into this one. So let's tear this out. Tear it out. Okay, so we're going to add 100, oh, sorry, what did I just say? 100 grams of flour, 50 grams of water. So we're going to add 50 grams of water. Oh, 51. Close enough. So now what I'm going to do is like stir all the goodies up from inside of our original container. Let me move that over there for a sec. I'm just doing my best. I'm not going to get it all. It's fine. It's not really that big a deal. But really what I'm doing here is just so I don't waste all this good stuff inside of this container. Okay. 50 grams. And it's going to read as a little bit more now because I added 50 grams of water to a little bit of the nubbins that were in here. So it's okay. We're going to tear it out. Now we're going to do 100 grams of the flour. We're going to do 100 grams of and I may end up adding a little bit of water because just depending on how thick that oh shoot, I forgot to stir it. Stir the water in with your when you add the water to your existing starter that you just put in here, stir it first. Make that milky consistency because now I'm going to have a pain in the butt here. Awesome. That's okay though. Real life, right? Okay, let's do our mixing. And like now it's going to be harder to gauge like how much more water I should add, but because I didn't get it added, or sorry, mixed all together right away. What did Numchuck? It's okay, it's okay. We can recover. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to add the water to it, which I probably should have done a little more water to flour ratio. That's okay though. You can't really see. So see how this is really dry? Again, it would have worked out better had I made it milk first. So make it milk first. Oh, silly goose. If I let it sit, it might actually absorb. Okay, let's do that. I'm going to let it sit for a second before I automatically assume I just need to add a bunch of water to this. It's fine. It's fine. So I'm going to let it sit for just a sec. And now I'm going to show you how I do my regular one. Now, probably should rinse that off, huh? Here is my starter that I've had for years. And my process for that, hold on. So I rinsed off that starter to mix this starter. Now, this is my regular process. So I pull this out of the fridge. I have about that much of the starter in here. And I actually don't use my scale for this point any longer. I just kind of eyeball it. So it's actually you can even see a little bit of that hooch that I've been referring to. See how it's kind of like darker on the top, and if I pull it aside, it's way prettier. It's not enough hooch for me to yank off the top. Had I let this sit for another week or two, I usually would just like go up to the kitchen sink, dump all the goobers off, and then just use it. You can also pull it out, start a whole new container. I feel like it's fine. All right, anyway, so what I'm gonna do is, I made it so it's hard to see here. Can you see the side of this? So like I have this much starter. I'm gonna add about yay amount of water to it, like right about there. I'm trying to lift you up without making my phone fall on the floor. So see about that much. And then now I'm gonna stir it, like I should have done the other one. So I'm gonna stir it. And because this was a larger quantity of the starter to start with, like, you know, about a cup and a quarter to maybe a cup and a half, the amount of flour is going to be a little bit more to feed it sufficiently. All right, and then just so you guys can see like a quantity, this is a half a cup. Quarter cup maybe? Let's see what it does. Again, your scale would be for when you're starting out so you can understand like your ratios. I'm literally eyeballing it just based on what I know that my starter usually does. So not a full half cup, not a quarter cup. I guess that would be a third cup if I would have grabbed out the third cup. So I'm gonna put that in there. That was kind of almost, it was pancake batter. So now I'm adding it in right now. I'll show you in a sec once I get it mixed. At this point, we're not going for as thick of pancake batter as when we're going to store our starter or when we were building our starter. We are going for a slightly runnier because we want it to feed kind of quick. So this is maybe a little too runny. I'm going to add a little bit more. So now we're at, probably this would be considered a full half cup with that amount extra. All right, so this is pretty much what I'm going for. I could even go a little thicker, but that should work. So this, because it came out of the fridge, will probably take until tomorrow morning to fully do its thing, which is fine because I don't want to bake bread till tomorrow morning. So perfect. I'm just going to do what we've done before, cover it lightly or loosely, and it gets set aside. Now we're going back to the one we were building. So like I said, I should have made it milk first. My bad. It's going to be such a pain in the butt now. Yeah, it is way too thick. I want to see how much more we're going to add. So let's tear it out. And did I show it to you first? So it's way too dry. If yours does that, way too dry. I've let it sit for a little bit and it's still showing me that it's way too dry. So I'm going to add, let's go, I guess it's about 30. So I wonder if I should have done equal to equal. Maybe that's actually what I do. Yeah. So we added 40 more grams of water into this. Screwed up my Levain video. But you know what? This is how you correct your mistakes on the fly. It's okay. In my head, I was thinking starter quantities, not Levain quantities. So. Yeah, I definitely think I want even a little bit more. So all in now, I think it's going to be considered half and half of. Now you have a way of also correcting yours. There it is. Now this one, we'll put our thing on there just so you can see. So we're starting right about there. Here's your cover. So behind me, we've got the starter with the hairband on it. That is our starter that we've been working on together. So now this is going to become our fed starter, aka our Levain. And then I also demonstrated my starter. This is my 4-year-old starter. And I don't have a binder on it. It's roughly there. That one will bubble up. I'm not too worried about it. But this is the one that matters as far as showing the process. Once it bubbles up, doubles, you'll be ready to roll on making your first sourdough bread product. And that will be another video. Questions, comments, put them down below. Inevitably, you'll run into a problem and hopefully I can help you solve it. And hopefully this video also shows you that it's something that's solvable. You'll be okay. I promise it will work out. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time.